Hello. I'm going to talk about our journey into sales budgeting, forecasting, and budget complete solution in DivePort. A short agenda here. Going to start with a bit of Mestergruppen and then move on to sales budgeting and the complete budget module. Mestergruppen is a Norwegian company and it has grown pretty much during the last 8 years from 2.8 billion Norwegian kroners until now about 20 billion. So, and mainly grown by mergers and acquisitions. And it's been quite a journey. Every new acquisition brings with them new systems, new ERP systems, and we have to implement them all the time into one single instance of Diver. We have also had quite a change in our market position. In 2014, we were number 7 in the market of building supplies. We are now number 1 in Norway, Sweden. We also have house builders, which are number 1 position in Norway, cottage builders, and plumbing. So we've grown a bit. Our presence in Norway, we have 497 stores across 8 brands, and in Sweden, just over 250. And as you can see on the map here, we're pretty much everywhere, except in some places north in the country. So if anyone thinks we have a growth situation here or a possibility, no one lives there. It's not anything. First of all, I have a pretty small and slim organization. We have just 3 people. We do everything in Diver and ourselves. And what I'm going to present is more or less the product of my 2 colleagues, Jørn and Runar, which are excellent people. So when I say we, I usually refer to them. I'm just a manager. So, in the years prior to 2020, sales budgeting was mainly done in Excel. Only the top 150 B2B customers were budgeted in the different business units, and a lot of revenue stayed unbudgeted as a result of that. Additionally, the Excel file included also a bit of sensitive information like salaries and stuff like that, so it wasn't made to share with the sales groups. So was primarily the manager who inputted the data themselves. So in addition, it was impossible to consolidate this into IBM Cognos, which we use as consolidation on top of everything. So we had 50 different Excel files which had to be read into that and see the results and so forth. So it took a lot of time and quite a few iterations before we were satisfied. So we thought about moving sales budgeting to the key account managers. And as you can see in the middle there, it's quite a puzzle. We have a bit over 100 key account managers, which all need then to decide the budget for the different customers. And we then take all those data and we split it up into different sales channels based on the historical sales in the different channels. And then we split that up again into the different business units, because one customer can buy from several business units across the country. So we need that split as well. Once we've done this logic, it made it possible to actually have quality in the sales budget, whilst before it, often the same customer would be fully budgeted in several units, so we actually multiplied the results by 3 or 4. So we did a proof of concept in DivePort, built just in a week using DivePort IN, and we calculated the revenue and the gross margin per customer based on the historical information. So if you had a customer, say, buying for 1 million last year, and you said that he would buy for 900K next year, we use the same gross margin and the same distribution on the different sales channels to actually see what you would have at the end. This could be changed afterwards. You could change the sales channels and you can change the gross margin, but it gives a pretty good estimate. Additionally, we made it possible to include all the business-to-business customers, not just the top 150 per site. So in the final version, we not just took calculated the revenue and the cost of goods, but we also took into account the kickbacks or bonuses for each business units. And we enabled this for all the business units that actually had sales. And we had, kind of an approval system where the customer account manager would approve his own budget, and then the manager of that one again would approve that budget, and finally the regional manager would approve the budgets of the managers. And we could also consolidate the data on the fly, so you actually could see how this would be. In a very simplified data flow here, we have DivePort IN, where you plot all the data, put this into the database, and then use the tunnel script to present this again in DivePort. So, actually this was quite a success. We not only replaced the Excel sheets, but we also increased the quality in the budgeting process. Most people were very happy with the solution. Not all of the key account managers were happy to do the work, but still. But there were some waiting time between input in DivePort IN and actually seeing the results. So, what's next? That was the complete budget model. And in Mestergruppen, we have 2 forecasters a year and 1 around the budget. We have 185 business units with their own P&Ls and over 140 people involved in forecasting and budgeting. So it's quite complex. So as you can guess, there were then 185 different Excel files as well, each for one P&L. And it was, of course, impossible to consolidate this at all. And we could not actually do the breakdown of revenue or costs by months in the Excel sheets. So it was quite difficult to see how the forecast would work. And there were a lot of iterations with Excel files being uploaded until we had the final version of the forecast ready. Our approach to forecasting was, first of all, to have the same functionality as the Excel file. and add to that the possibility of consolidating on the fly. In addition, we got the added value of control of all the changes and having the possibility of adding comments to every account or whatever, and the approval pyramid at the top. And well, in the spirit of continuous improvement, we did not include every business unit on the first release. We did the largest business unit, or the largest umbrella of business units, but we did not include everything. And also to reduce complexity, of course. Another simplified data flow. The difference between this one and the previous one was we moved into using database triggers. And why we're using that is because, for instance, you have an account and you have an offset account which will be the same number as the main account, only negative, or the other way around. Then we could populate those automatically, whilst the Excel sheets had no such function. So you'd just have, well, you had to be careful to put the same numbers on the same accounts, or the offset and account. And again, this functions as a near real-time update where you consolidate more or less on the fly all the time. And in addition, we exported the result into Cognos at the end, so we just built a complete file for importing into Cognos, which worked really well instead of having to import 180 files each in a row. So again, success. Feels good, doesn't it? We not only increased the quality, but we had a lot of people happy. We were having better speed when using triggers, when storing into the data in the SQL server. Still some waiting time, and not all units included in the first version they wanted to, but we said no. So next up was the complete budget. Budgeting was pretty similar to forecasting. The main difference here was that the managers had to plot in all their employees at the different business units with salaries and stuff like that, and bonuses, whatever. There were some room for errors in that process because they all had to do that manually. And the quality of the budget connected to salaries were not good enough. So moving on to DivePort, we integrated the data from the payroll software and made it unnecessary to manually input anything at all except for new employees, which were to start in the new year, or people who we knew were going to quit. We did, of course, also connect the budget to the sales budget mentioned earlier. And additionally, we only let people budget accounts which we had not already pre-populated. So all the sales budgeting and the salaries were already locked, so they could not change that unless they went back to the sales budget or the payrolls. The difference between the previous data flow and this one was the addition of more complex database triggers, where, for instance, you could calculate all the pension values, taxes, etc. When you have approved the staffing, for example. And a combination of multi-level C bases and SQL scripts, where we had the data which didn't change at all. For instance, account numbers and such were in C bases, and all the numbers were done by extracting from the SQL server. And this actually meant that thing finally was up to speed. The only negative thing here was the fact that not all business units was included in the version we had in 2021, and they were jealous. So, moving on to lessons learned. Speed. It's so important. It's everything for the user. Make things as fast as possible, as soon as possible. They tend to get very frustrated and say a bunch of very not nice things. Define the ownership, unless you want it yourself. We now have most of the ownership of the whole solution and would like someone else to take it, but yeah. And make rule sets for different type of business units. For instance, those that have or have not sales, they have different layouts. And make them configurable so that I have different flows as well. What's next for us? Well, it's been a couple of weeks since I made this, so we've already done a few things with this. But first of all, making the budgeting and forecast modules available to all business units. We have already done that because budgeting starts next week, but except for our latest acquisition, which we bought up this summer, everything else is there. And we also have rewritten some of the older things to speed things up. The only thing we've just started on is make instructional videos and publish them into Motimate, which is an e-learning platform for new employees. We have made some videos, but we haven't published them to make them available. And that's it for me, actually. Any questions? Huh? Thank you.